So what are we doing about our live rock harvest? If anybody gets criticized about the amount of live rock material that is shipped out of Fiji, it certainly is me. And we really take a serious look at this. And what are the alternatives? What you're looking at here is a pile of rock that the Fijians have harvested. Some of you know this as branch rock, but they'll go out and they'll club this away and they'll stick it on the side of the road and they'll sell this entire pile for $5. What do they use it for? They put it in their septic tanks. It's lime. And the way I look at this is a horrible waste of a resource. The village doesn't really earn much for $5 from the pile as compared to us paying them so much a kilo to harvest the rock for the live rock trade. And our alternative that we found in harvesting our Fiji premium that most of you are familiar with is to manufacture rock ourselves. Now, in the same way that we make our frag mounts, we'll take regular concrete, we'll mix it with reef substrate, which is coral shells and large particles that wash up to the high tidal zone, up and beyond the fine sand. And so it's kind of like rocks. We mix it in with the cement and we get a nice texture. It's very hard to take cement and make it look like a live rock. You wind up, it looks like a cow pie. So, what we've done is to make the rock, we have to put it on these pallets and cure it for about 6 weeks before we can put it in the ocean. The reason for that is that if you try to put it in the ocean too soon, the cement is not fully cured and it just dissolves. It goes away. And that's not very good for business, especially when you buy all that cement. So we can make about 7,000 pieces of rock per week. And today we have 8 of these sandboxes that are about 80 feet long. And we have a different artist working on each sandbox that create the rock all week long. When it's cured and ready for moving out to the reef, we're lucky enough to have our entire property right on the water, so we have our own wharf. And the boat, we just simply load this on the boats right at the end of our property. And we'll take it out on a smaller boat to the Brittany. As you can see, it's pretty labor intensive. It takes quite a few people to place this rock on the reef in the right area, and then there's a lot of maintenance being done on the rock while it's growing. An average live rock is in the water for about 1.5 years. And the Fijians said, "What the heck is this white guy doing? Making rock. What is he doing that for? There's so much available anyway." But again, it comes down to if we can do it, why not? It's taken quite a few years for the hobby to understand that the cultured rock is just as beautiful and just as useful in your aquarium. And we have had the University of South Pacific do a thesis. A master's student did a thesis on our rock, comparing it to the natural harvested rock, and found out that it's every bit as valuable as live rock, regular harvested natural rock in your tank. That was been part of my talk a couple of years ago when we did that. We've been making this rock since 1998. And what you see here is one of our sites that's several acres large. All of what you're looking at is our artificial live rock. And what we found with much delight that is after the rock's been in the water a while, it actually colonizes and the fish move in and they say, "Hey, look at this nice new reef this guy gave us. That's cool." You can see quite a few inhabitants there. Now, when we harvest this rock and take it away, have we taken their home away? No. Whenever we harvest rock, it's a two-step effort. We always put rock in where we take rock out. Not a very pretty reef, but that's the point. You wouldn't want to be pouring all this material over a nice, pristine, luxuriant reef. And then we make periodical trips out to the site, and we do what we call spinning, or we'll take the rock and we'll place it right, we'll move it around, we'll turn it in different ways so the coralline gets full coverage all around the rock as what we call cooking. This activity usually takes place when we're out getting a harvest. We're pleased to say that when we first started doing this, it was less than 1% of our export. Today, it's approaching more than 20%, and the demand is very high. So we're very pleased about that. And some of the other areas, that was out in the open ocean. We use another area on the Coral Coast. This is exactly the same area where we harvest our Fiji Premium. This area is about 40 kilometers long along the coast. And when we harvest our Fiji Premium, we'll actually start at point A and work our way down to try to make it a very sustainable harvest. And it usually takes us about a year or year and a half to get back to point A again. At that point, we will find that the lye rock has completely replenished itself. But just like the corals, not all rock is harvestable. Not all rock that you see out there is something you would want. And we've done many experiments with, since the Coral Coast is a different kind of terrain, we have these ledges and holes, and at low tide, these guys would be standing in about knee-deep water. So we said, well, if we stick it under ledges and we stick it in holes where it's nothing but coralline, maybe the rock will grow faster. And we found some interesting results. It's not always what you think is going to happens. Here you see one of our divers is checking the rock. That's the same area that you just saw, and that's what I was telling you, how shallow the water actually gets. And he's deciding that, well, maybe this is about 6 months, and maybe the coralline's not growing to the desired amount or coverage that we look for. We try to make sure that all rock is at least 60% covered before we export it. This rock has been in the ocean for about 6 months, and it didn't really work out well. So what do? We put it on a raft and we move it. This raft is what they call a billy in Fiji. Kind of looks like something Moses wrote on. Fijians are very efficient in making their own tools and making their own ways to get around in the water, and they really are, to a large extent, water people. So we have to take this rock that didn't work out too well and move it to another location. It's amazing, the Fijians, when you show them a vast area of water that just for you and I would look like just this open sea, they know exactly where everything is. They can take you right to it and go in. And they're never very far off at all.